Yo, so what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So on this video, I'm going to go over whether, this online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, or arbitrage in general is still worth getting into going into 2024. My thoughts on why I kind of got out, little few tips to some of you who may be considering the same thing and wondering, if it's still profitable, if it's still worth the headache, and just basically everything else in between, because, I've had a few DMs regarding my recent transition into fully wholesale. And so I just want to kind of clear a few things up, about the business model and why I made that transition, and just, everything else in between, right? So without further ado, guys, we'll get straight into it and just dive deep. Arbitrage. It's been here for years, not even in the FBA community, just in general, like thousands and thousands of years. Arbitrage is just a model for you buy something and you sell it at a higher price, right? And that being said, in the FBA community, there's also, there's two different types of arbitrage: retail and online arbitrage. One, you go shop for products in the store. The other one, you shop for products online on the stores, all right? And so, when it comes to arbitrage, one of the best things about these two business models is that it's very beginner friendly. It's very low budget friendly. Okay. And what I mean by that is that, when I started, trying to do Amazon, and especially when I tried to get into wholesale, I didn't have much capital to begin with. All right. I had like $1,000 to my name, spent like 300 on LLC here in Texas. And then the rest went to inventory, which is like $700, which was nowhere near enough to do wholesale. So I was kind of stuck, trying to do arbitrage model from there, which is great though, because again, these two type of models are very beginner friendly, budget friendly, and so if you're low on capital and you have plenty of time, then these two business models are very perfect to begin in the beginning of your FBA journey, because again, you have the time to actually do these models by spending hours researching products, going to the stores, scanning stuff, whatever model you decide to go with. You have the time, but you don't have the money, and so these business models are perfect for those of you wanting to get started into Amazon FBA. That being said, it's perfect as a beginner. It's perfect for even a mid 50K, 60K seller monthly revenue. But I'll be honest though, as you start hitting those six figures monthly in revenue, I do think there are better options out there than just doing pure OA. Now, that's not to say that you can't be successful with doing either model at a greater scale, okay? Because there are plenty of sellers out there who are doing both models or each model separately and are running a successful business doing these business models, okay? So I'm not saying it's impossible, because it ain't. I mean, I saw somewhere on the Discord that someone was saying that 90K is the cap to what you can do with OA, which is completely false. I think the most I've seen with OA though is probably like 250 or 300K revenue a month. So again, it's possible. I mean, you could legit run a very successful business doing just strict OA or RA. Now, I will say this though, guys, straight up facts, just the truth. Once you're doing six figures in revenue doing either of these business models, it just becomes a lot of headache to deal with, if I'm being honest. And yes, you can say that you can outsource a lot of this business and whatnot, but I just personally feel like there's more to manage at that scale with help, anyways. That it just doesn't become worth it, in my opinion. All right. And so let me give you a few examples, right? Back when we were doing still a lot of OA in our model, we will be buying huge, heavy quantities from certain sites and whatnot. I'm talking like 60, 100 units per order and whatnot. And so when we receive the products, because we do in-house prep, and you can argue that, oh, you should have used a prep center and whatnot, which is perfectly fine. But, I like to have stuff in-house ourselves. So like when we were receiving so many units, it was hard to really keep track of some of these products, because you would have to count them. You would have to make sure we had the right amount, track it on a Google sheet. And then if we were missing something, we have to reach out to the site, ask for a replacement. And at times they wouldn't give us a replacement. They just refund us, which, nothing wrong with that, except if we needed it for a bundle, then we're kind of screwed on that one bundle, because now we're stuck with the other unit that we can't even do nothing with. And yeah, we look for a listing on Amazon, find a product for it or a listing for it, and the listing sucks. So all we do at that point is just liquidate that product. And so again, it becomes so much headache, because when you're going from doing one to a few units to tens of units dealing with this, it becomes just a huge headache. Not to mention keeping track of order numbers, confirmation numbers, the shipping, uh, making sure you got the right discount code when you're checking out, make sure you inputted the right thing. I mean, it's just so time consuming at that scale. Not to mention when you're buying online, like at a great scale, like if you want to drop $10,000 with OA, you're gonna spend hours doing that. Like you're gonna be in there adding to cart, checking out, make sure you're adding the code, triggering the Rakuten cashback, extension. So many moving parts in just that buying aspect alone that I remember just last year I was spending literally like 4 or 5 hours just buying stuff doing OA. Like at a certain point it was a lot, man. All right, and it's an easy job. Don't get me wrong, it's freaking easy. Like it's so simple, but at that scale, it just becomes a headache, right? And so I ended up training one of my VAs to do it, get better at it, gave her a raise for that aspect of the business, and it freed up so much time. But at the end of the day, I still had to keep up and double shit, double make sure that we had the right quantities updated. Then we had to reach back out to the retailer to make sure we, just stuff like that, right? And so, yeah, man, it's just, I mean, you can argue and say like, hey, you just hire a bunch of virtual assistants to, deal with all this stuff. But dude, I mean, why do you want so many employees for too? You know, at this point in our business, doing wholesale, I only have two VAs that I still had since the beginning, of last year. And then as far as preppers, I mean, they kind of manage their own sales. I mean, prepping is a very simple process, right? You're just bubble wrapping, polybagging, stickering, putting in boxes. I mean, that aspect is outsourcing its own self. And again, with OA, it was just so much of a headache dealing with a lot of that. Compared to like wholesale, where I'm like, if I want to place that same 10K order, it just takes one text message from me to my sales rep. They'll place it for me, and it's completely done. It's done in minutes versus hours. And so, like I said, I mean, I'm not trying to discourage you guys from doing OA at scale. Like I said previously, this is very manageable at a scale to run. The problem is that you really want to run it at scale with so much to deal with, right? Uh, like I'm gonna be straight up honest, guys. My mindset is much more clear doing wholesale versus doing OA, like just straight up, and it's nowhere near close. Like if I was still doing OA, I probably wouldn't even have time to be doing these videos right now. If I'm being totally honest with you guys, just because it was that much of a headache to deal with. And retail arbitrage, don't even get me started on retail arbitrage. I mean, dude, driving hours, minutes to find products. I mean, nothing wrong with it for those of you who can do it. Huge respect to you guys who do this business model because holy crap, it's a ton of fucking work. But for me, man, nah, man, it's just nah. To me, it just didn't become worth it anymore. To deal with the headaches that come with these two models at a scale. Okay, again, this is at a scale. In the beginner phase, it's very worth it because you're still learning, you're still growing, you still want to know how the business works until you can grow your capital. But if I'm being honest, guys, at a certain point, I really do highly suggest you guys either get into wholesale, try some private label, or maybe even venture off to a different business model using some of the capital from OA to kind of, fund it. But again, this is just me. This is just my opinion. This is just how my experience was. I'm not trying to persuade anybody to really, jump into something else. Because if you can deal with these headaches, if you can manage this and you're okay dealing with it, because it fits maybe your personal goals and whatnot, then I'm all for it. All right, keep at it. You don't need to quit OA or RA just because I'm going over my points of views. But in my opinion, it's just at a greater scale, it just doesn't seem worth to do. Like no, like I'm seeing OA sellers in Discord groups talking about they dropped 20K on one day. I can imagine the amount of time that took to place. Like dude, I placed a 20K wholesale order not too long ago. It only took me minutes to place that order. Like after that, I'm done. I don't need to do anything extra. I don't need to be sitting on the computer, checking out multiple times, spending hours. Like I'm done. I'm done for the week if I really wanted to, because 20K in 1 week is pretty decent to spend. So, but yeah, guys, I mean, it's a huge headache. But long term wise, like I said, OA is still good. It's a really good business model. If you can hang in there, if you can just wait for all the sellers to kind of tank out and quit, it's still a viable business model too. There's nothing wrong with it. But again, like I said, you just gotta figure out what works for you and kind of your lifestyle, right? For me, wholesale works. It's perfect. It's amazing. I think it's exactly what I wanted when I first started this business model, because that's exactly what I wanted was wholesale anyways in the beginning. So yeah, I mean, it works for us. For some of you, it may not work. Wholesale is an entirely different game from OA, RA, because the risks are bigger with wholesale, no doubt, but the rewards are also greater. I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm having higher margins with wholesale than I ever did with OA. So that's crazy to say that because yeah, usually you hear the stories like, oh, wholesale margins are lower. They're not as big as OA, and yeah, it ended up being the opposite for me. But again, that's just my experience. All right, I'm not trying to speak for everybody when I say that because some wholesale margins are lower than OA. So, but yeah, but like I said, OA is still worth it. Don't quit just because you watch this video, okay? Please don't. A lot of you probably should stick to OA, RA, if I'm being honest. But long term, if you plan on growing a business model and you really want to scale and continue growing your Amazon business, I think something else is a much better way to go about it than doing either of these models, all right? But yeah, that's just my 2 cents. That's just what I want to talk about in this video. If you made it this far, I truly appreciate you for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Is OA worth it for you going forward? Is it worth it for you long term? And if not, then what is? What's something that you plan on doing? So just let me know in the comment section down below, guys. That is it for this video, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.